time. The amazing thing about the 13 Ikarim is that the Rambam says that with these 13 Ikarim, you're a member of the Jewish people. And that's when the mitzvot Ben Adam L'Chavero finally apply to you. It's called, this is entry to Klal Yisrael. And hence the mitzvot Ben Adam L'Chavero between Jew and fellow Jew apply. And also Rambam said an amazing thing, that you have a guaranteed chelek l'olam haba. Now, of course, you'll be punished whatever you did wrong, because there is reward and punishment. But Hashem is guaranteed to get you somehow kapara for what you've done wrong, so you will get to olam haba. Something which a person without Yud Gimel Ikarim, no matter how many mitzvot he does, he's not going to olam haba. Right, and we'll explain that. But I mean, I guess we could add a quick word of explanation right here, right now, and that is that. Hashem doesn't necessarily owe you olam haba for your mitzvot. It's a mitzvah that you did in this world. Took you 5 minutes, let's say, to shake lulav. You paid $500 for your arba minim. So if Hashem gave you $2,000 in some, whether you won the lottery or you did a business deal and it was matzliach, he paid you back. It cost you $500 and maybe a whole of 2 hours work in course of the entire Sukkot, right? Paid you $2,000. You did a business deal for more. It's a chidush, right? It is actually amazing that Hashem, for an action in this role, will give you olam haba, and we're going to discuss that more, further on in the series. So you understand that, of course, Kadosh Baruch Hu has to give reward. He has to give punishment because he agreed to that. And that's one of the Yud Gimel Ikarim themselves. Hashem gives reward and punishment, but that you should get olam haba for your mitzvot. And he can pay you back in olam hazeh also. You have to be worthy to get into olam haba, and once you're going there, so you'll get paid for your mitzvot there. But if you're not going there anyway, God forbid, because you're a heretic, chas v'shalom, right? So of course you'll get the schar of your mitzvot in olam hazeh. And that's really the explanation of why some very wicked people have great lives. Chazal say this, and this is in all the Sfarim, right? That well, as bad as a guy is, he must have done something right. He's got to be paid for it. So he's getting paid for it in this world because he's not going to the next world. So Yud Gimel Ikarim is what gets you to the next world, right? And of course, once you're going there, you could get schar mitzvot there. But if you're not going there at all, so you'll get the schar of whatever you did, paid off in this world, right? Right, you have to realize it's a chidush and a chesed, that mitzvot, which are actions in this world that cost a finite amount of time and a finite amount of money, get eternal reward. You understand? It's a chidush, and you have to be worthy of that chidush, and that's what Yud Gimel Ikarim are. But even on them alone, you can make it to olam haba. But of course, again, there's no free lunch. Yud Gimel Ikarim is something very big, very powerful, which we're still trying to define, and gets you to olam haba. And once you go there, you could get the schar of your mitzvot there also. You could cash in, for lack of a better word, your mitzvot there. A person who doesn't have Yud Gimel Ikarim, so he's not going to olam haba, as the Rambam explained, and that the mitzvot Ben Adam L'Chavero don't apply to him. But you'll ask, but he's done mitzvot. He's done okay. For a man who's not making it to olam haba, God forbid, there's plenty of earthly pleasures to give him for his mitzvot that he did, since he can't, as it were, for lack of a better word, turn them in, bank them in olam haba, right? And I hope this is clear. If not, please reach out to me. Anyways, so Yud Gimel Ikarim. So what is it about the Yud Gimel Ikarim? And the truth is, this now goes into the broader question: what do we mean by Ikarim to begin with? Isn't all of Torah true? Isn't all of Torah true? If a person denies one word of Torah, the Ram writes this in the 8th Ikar. Right, in the 8th out of the 13 is to believe that Moshe, everything he put in the Torah, everything he taught us in the, in the Torah Shebechtav, the book that he gave us, the Torah Shebal Peh, the Halach LaMoshe Misinai's, and the Yud Gimel Midot that he taught us. It's all Mipi Agvur. You deny even one word. You say Hashem, Hashem didn't tell Moshe that word that he wrote in the Torah. He wrote it, on his own volition. I decided, Torah needs some fillers. Not enough words in this parsha, right? Or let's make it interesting. Let's shtup in this story. God forbid. So you believe one word, Moshe Rabbeinu made up himself. You're not bikoros. You have to believe really in all of Torah, right? So it's like, what sets these 13 ideas apart? You have to believe every word of Torah. In the Torah Shebechtav is Mipi Agvura. And the Torah Shebal Peh also, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't make it up. This is the oral interpretation Hashem himself taught him. And the Yud Gimel Midot that Chazal used also. Moshe Rabbeinu gave us Mipi Agvura. So, so what's the point of Ikarim? Now that the Rambam in that same Ikar, the 8th Ikar, says, how about if I say some of Torah is more important than others? Right? And the Rambam gives an example. In that 8th Ikar, says, let's say, the stories that we just had in Parshat Vayishlach, the stories of Esav and his kids, that's actually the example the Rambam brings, right? Esav and his kids and the empires that they set up, that you can't tell me that's as important as Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Echad or Anochi Hashem Elokecha. It says, Ram, if you say that, you're an apikoros. All of Torah is equally important, equally as deep, because it's all equally from the one infinite God, right? And just sometimes, the importance of the message is very clear. Sometimes the importance of the message needs some digging, and you have to dive into Hashem, says the Rambam, to open your eyes to see it. But all of Torah is equally as important, equally as deep, because it's equally from the same one and only God. So there's no higher or lower, right? So from the Rambam himself, everything that he says in the 8th Ikar. So what are Ikarim? What are Ikarim? What are they? Right? You have to believe in every word of Torah. Right? A. B, you have to believe all of Torah is equally as important. So how does he isolate Ikarim? That these are Ikar. What does that mean? Right? It's hard to understand philosophically onto its own, but also runs counter to what the Rambam himself writes. Right? So, now Rav Yosef Albo, although there were many that didn't understand, from Rishonim, that just didn't understand where the Rambam was coming from with his 13 Ikarim. Was it Ikarim? So Rav Yosef Albo, says like this. He says, look, I don't know. I don't understand where the Rambam's coming from, because it's not the 13 Ikarim is not certainly not the comprehensive list of everything a Jew has to believe. He says, but if the Rambam is looking to set up a basic religious structure, you have a basic religious structure with 3 ideas, right? That there is a God, because no God, no religion. Right? That he gave a law, because he didn't give a law, there's no religion. And schar va'onesh, reward and punishment, because the law's got to make a difference. If I say I got something really important for you, it is so important. It's the best stuff. It's the best stuff, and it makes no difference if you know it or not, if you keep it or not. So how is it important? If it makes no difference, schar va'onesh, right, is the most basic litmus test, right? That something is important. All right, if you have something to gain by keeping it, something to lose by not keeping it, then it's important. If not, it's meaningless. And also on a deeper level, the point of religion is to have a connection with God on a deeper level. So reward is the connection, and the punishment is the disconnection. Religion didn't accomplish anything if there's nothing to be gained by keeping it or not keeping it. Right? Okay. So he says, but he himself is very open. He says, I'm not saying you only have to believe 3 things. I am not saying that. I'm not saying it. You have to believe whatever the religion obligates you to believe. But that's not what Ikarim are. Ikarim is just to set up a basic structure of being a religious man, but it's just philosophy. You have to believe in God, right? You have to, in order to be religious. To be a religious man. No God, no religion. You got to believe he gave a law, because no law, then there's no religion. And you have to believe that it makes a difference. You have what to gain by keeping it. You have what to lose by violating it. But of course, but then there are the obligations of the religion. The obligations, just like you have to put on tefillin, you have to shake lulav. You also have to have obligations. Actually, you have obligations to believe. The religion obligates you to believe in certain things. So Albo says my Ikarim is not the comprehensive list of what you have to believe in. They are categories. They are categories of things that are important in a religion. Now, the truth is, when you think about it, all Albo did was to create a different notion of Ikrim, which is clearly different than that of the Rambam. And he just created general categories of things you have to believe about any religion, if it's going to qualify as a religion. And by the way, let's just say it, by Albo's categories, Reform Judaism is not a religion. Christianity is a religion, we believe it's the wrong religion, right? Islam is a religion, just we believe it's the wrong religion, because we'll take a look at Islam, take a look at Christianity, God forbid, right? Not to say that they're true, but they have that basic structure that qualifies as a religion by Albo's categories. They both believe in a God. They both believe that God commanded something. They both believe there's reward and punishment if you got this law that they believe God commanded, or if you violate it. They're religious. They may not be real religions. They might be fake religions, right? They're fake religions. They are fake religions, we believe, right? But they're religions. Reform Judaism is not a religion. I don't think Reform Judaism obligates you to believe in God. They certainly don't believe in Torah min hashamayim. They think the rabbis made it up. And they also don't believe in reward and punishment like the way we do, So Reform Judaism or Reconstructionist Judaism, cultural Judaism, they're what we call ethnicities, but they don't qualify as a religion by Albo's categories, which used to be, widely accepted as a good way of defining a religion. Now, the truth is, when you think about it, the Rambam's 13 Ikarim, because since Albo set up these very general categories, we could easily fit the Rambam's 13 into his 3, because he said just general categories. These are not the detailed things you have to believe in. You have, your religion will dictate to you, just like it could dictate to you what you have to do, the mitzvot you have to do. It'll also dictate to you the emunot you're obligated to have. But he's just setting up a very general structure of what makes up a religious system. And we could easily fit the Rambam's 13 into his very general 3. The first 5 Ikarim of the Rambam have to do with God. So that's all fits into Albo's first category, believing in God. The middle 4 have to do with Torah min hashamayim, which includes prophecy and and the last 4 have to do with reward and punishment. The difference that religion makes, reward and punishment, Mashiach, Tchiyat HaMetim, and we'll explain all this, but all Albo did was give us general categories, which he, of a religious structure, and the Rambam considers each one of these 13 an Ikar. They're not tafel to Albo's big 3 categories. Each one is an Ikar in its own right. You need all 13, like we learned last time. You need all 13. And even the Ram says, if we learned this together last time, if one of the 13 you don't believe in, you broke the circuit. The whole thing collapses. You need all 13. It's all 13 or nothing. And it's very interesting that 13 is Gematria Echad, right? It's all 13, to make a single unit, right? And it's, by the way, this is a very big al pisod. They said Yud Gimel Ikarim is actually a sign that maybe the Rambam had Kabbalah. It kind of reflects how also, we have a lot of things that are 13. We have 13 tribes of Israel, if you count Menashe and Ephraim, or it's 13 if it's Yaakov and his 12 sons. We also Gematria Echad, or Goy Echad Ba'aretz. We have 13 Midot She'atar Nidresha Behem, 13 Midot HaRachamim. And in our Echad Miodea that we say on Seder night, we go from 1 to 13. 1 is 1, and 13 is, Gematria Echad, which is also, that's what we say, Aleph is, Keneged Yaakov Avinu, Chet is Keneged, the children of Rachel and Leah, and Daud are Keneged the 4 children of Bilhah and Zilpah. Right? Okay, and it's very deep, but the point I want to get is that the Ram made it clear you need all 13 together to close the circuit, to make the whole structure. If one is missing, the whole structure crumbles. And we'll explain that, Bezrat Hashem. But let's just get to the main point. What did the Rambam mean by his 13 Ikarim? So a lot of Sfarim, spoke around the point, got close to the point, but I have to say that the one who zeroed in on it and said it the best, Achron Chaviv, was my Rosh Yeshiva, my Rebbe Muvak, right? A guy of Yaakov Weinberg, Zecher Tzaddik the Rosh Yeshiva of Ner Yisrael, who my book Evan Shesiya on Yud Gimel Ikarim, it's mainly his teachings. He's the one who chopped it the best, right? We show in the Sefer other earlier thinkers got close, but he's the one who just was zoche to say it good and sharp. And his approach to what Yud Gimel Ikarim are is that it is only with these 13 ideas you could accept the Torah as being absolute truth. Absolute truth. Right? A lot of things could be true. Right? Could be true. Like, I say you went to the supermarket yesterday, right? That could be true. There's no reason why it can't be true. It may or may not be true, but it could be true, right? Because you could go to the supermarket. There's no reason why you can't, but doesn't mean it's what happened, right? So there's like truth that, did you go to the supermarket yesterday? That could be true, right? There are things that can't be true, like you can't square the circle. 1 + 1 does not equal 3, right? 1 does not equal 3 if you're getting what I'm alluding to, right? Certain things just can't be true, right? And certain things have to be true. It just can't be any other way. Even more true than 1 + 1 = 2. I'll tell you why. Because, it's true. If 1 + 1 can only equal 2. But who said you ever have to add 1 + 1? Who says it ever happens? Does it have to happen that you add 1 and another 1? So even 1 + 1 = 2 is not an absolute truth, because maybe I'll never have to add 2 things. But that there is a God is an absolute truth, right? Because if there's no God, then there's nothing, right? Then how could anything exist? In the words of the Rambam, that's what we're going to learn, right? So there are things that are absolute truth, that it must be true. It cannot not be true. Cannot not be true. And it leaves no room for any other truth. Right? It is the absolute truth, so no other truth can contradict it. Right? It's an absolute truth means it's true all the time, everywhere. All the time, everywhere. So it does not leave room for any contradictory ideas. We have to accept the Torah as being an absolute truth. Not just it might be true. We'd like to believe it's true. We're betting on the Torah. We think it's a safer bet than Islam. God forbid, right? Or we don't know. We'll stick with the Torah. That's not called to accept the Torah. We have to accept the Torah as an absolute truth. An absolute truth. Right? And that's called to be committed to Torah. And that's why you understand when you have the Yud Gimel Ikarim, you're part of Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael is Am HaTorah, the nation that accepted the Torah. We accepted the Torah as an absolute truth. Right? And so to be Jewish is to be the nation of Torah, to accept the nation that accepted the Torah. That's your fellow Jew. To be in is to accept the Torah as absolute truth. Right? So let's just give some examples, that bring this out the most. Right? I'm going to give you one example from each of the 3 categories of Albo's categories. That Albo just had some sort of categories, but the Rambam says, aside from believing God, you have to believe He has no body. Right? And that was something we're going to deal with later, that a lot of people were not clear about because they were misled, because the Torah seems to talk about, Yad Hashem, the hand of Hashem, Einei Hashem, Yemincha Hashem, Nari B'koach, right? You have to, it's the Rambam said, no, you must believe God has no body. You must believe that. And there's no excuse. No matter how uneducated a Jew is, he still has to believe God has no body. The Rambam triples down on that, in all his writings. Some people just couldn't understand why, it's true, but why is he say even women and children have to know this, not No one disagrees with the Rambam that's true, right? But I just understand why the Rambam was like, this is so important, and there's like no forgiveness, right? Because if God has a body, He's not infinite. Because every body starts here and ends there, and if even if it's a very big body, well, I'll wait for his body. I'll wait for him to turn his back, and I'll do any avera I want. He won't see it because no body is everywhere. And even if you say, well, it's such a big body, he sees everything that's happening on Earth, so I can't get away. You know what you're going to dreaming about? You're just going to be dreaming about how try to take out your calculator and calculate, if I got a spaceship, how can I escape God? So you're not absolutely committed to God if you think He has a body. How can you be, absolutely committed to God if you think that He is finite and He is escapable? So you're not going to be 100% committed. You have to believe God has no body to accept Him as an absolute God. That serving Him is, and being subjugated to Him is the truth, because there is like no alternative truth. There is no running away from Him, right? Right. So that's from the category of the God, that there is a God, is also that the Rambam's 5 Ikarim God is to make sure that the God is an absolute being. Now, also the Torah that He gives. Did He give me a Torah that happens to be true? Or did He give me the Torah that is the absolute truth? Right? It makes a big difference, because if Torah is not an absolute truth, even though it came from God, I don't want to die for it. I don't want to be Moser Nefesh, especially if the Torah could change. So the Rambam put in amongst the 4 Ikarim that have to do with Torah Min HaShamayim, right? Actually, the Ikar that Albo had his doubts about, as we'll explain, and don't get carried away, right? Right, it was can Torah ever change? Rambam said, no, Torah will never change. Even God Himself won't change the Torah. Not just that me and you can't change it. Even God Himself won't change it. What does that tell you? That the Torah that He gave you is an absolute truth. Even God Himself won't change. That means it's absolutely true. It never changes. The truth, the absolute truth, doesn't change, right? And about schar v'onesh, is that you have to believe in olam haba, which is the absolute existence, and karet, which is the absolute non-existence. Torah makes an absolute difference. And that also kind of explains why you need Mashiach Tchiat HaMeitim. The Torah is an absolute truth. The system of Torah is indefeatable. Right? It's an amazing thing. So the Indian of the Yud Gimel Ikarim, and that's why, of course, all of Torah is equally true. But you have to be consciously aware of these 13 concepts in order to accept the Torah's absolute truth. Right? That the God who gave it is an absolute God. The law that He gave is the truth. There is no higher truth than the Torah, and it's an eternal truth, and that it makes an absolute difference. And if any one of the 13 Ikarim are missing, the whole structure collapses, because there will be an aspect about the Torah that's not absolute. Right? So you have to have all 13 to have it closed, a closed circuit, that an absolute God gave an absolute law that makes an absolute difference. And that's what Yud Gimel Ikarim. You need to be consciously aware of these 13 ideas in order to be able to relate to Torah's absolute truth. So, the rest of Torah are equally as true as these 13 Ikarim. All of Torah is equally true, equally from God, but you need to be consciously aware of these 13 ideas to realize the Torah is an absolute truth from an absolute God that makes an absolute difference. Mull this over. We'll continue next week, Be'ezrat Hashem.